I'll give any young advice for a young man in their 20s. Get in the gym every day. That will change your life. Get in the gym. Stop drinking. Stop the alcohol.
This is a clip from a video offering advice sent in response to a query.
Get fit. It's the best thing in the world, man. That's what I wish I could have relived my life and done from my early 20s.
This might sound like sage advice for young people, but the man delivering it is Tommy Robinson, the far-right activist. This is from the same video.
Remember when I first started, someone said to me, the hardest problem you have will be from within. And I thought, what are you talking about? We're all men. We're fighting against Islam.
This is part of another video from the same site.
Look up, wherever you live, start Googling refugee rape. Start looking at statistics. Maybe investigate the mosques, all these sorts of things, bro.
The videos were sent in response to questions from a reporter at the Times looking into a personal video platform he was promoting, selling one-to-one interactions. So what has he been telling followers, and should we be worried about the possibilities of radicalisation at a time when the number of people referred for far-right extremism is on the rise? From the Times and the Sunday Times, this is The Story. I'm Calum MacDonald. The story today, Tommy Robinson's far-right coaching.
I'm Shanti Das. I'm a reporter on the investigations team at The Times.
Shanti, let's start with how you came across these videos. In the first instance, what happened?
So I've got an account on X and a lot of content just pops up on your homepage. I saw some videos from Tommy Robinson's account, posts about the protests that have been going on in the last few weeks. So went on his profile and saw that in his biography he was referring to Minnect. Hadn't heard of Minnect, so clicked on it, had a look and thought it was really interesting that he was being advertised by this platform as an expert. He's described as an anti-Islam activist, co-founder and author who can advise on government and politics. His profile talks about things like his experience leading the EDL, censorship, standing up to global elites, and people have the opportunity to ask him questions. So you can either send a written question and get a written answer, or you can pay to have a video call with him or to get a video message that's recorded and sent back. When I went on Robinson's profile, I saw that there'd been lots of reviews left by people who'd paid for his advice videos. In some cases, they were talking about things like holidays or sports, and they seemed to be from people who were just genuinely excited to be able to speak to someone they admired one-to-one. But in other cases, they seemed to refer to practical advice, protesting, and his anti-Islam activism. So I was just curious to find out what was actually going on in these conversations, which are private.
So what you can see at this point is almost like the public's responses to him. They're sort of thanks to him, but you can't see what they're responding to, i.e. what he has done for them or given them.
Yeah, exactly. So the content of the actual consultations is private, but on his Minnect profile, there was also one video which has been made public. So that's one that he's presumably chosen to feature so that other potential customers can get a sense of what they might get if they pay. In that question, somebody had asked him about Islam. They said that their concern was for the future of our kids and that they felt Islam will do exactly what it's done in the Middle East right here. It's happening now. They go on to say in the question, we need action, protest doesn't change anything, and also to call for an army-style firm to protect the border from invasion. They also refer to fighting and ask him if there's any such plan in place before it's too late. And then we can also see that Robinson's posted a reply, and in it he talks about the fact that there's a mass awakening happening.
Mate, making any sort of plans until the public are ready and understand the danger of Islam. If you look how far we've come in 10 years, 2 years, 1 year, look at the last 12 months. There's a mass awakening happening.
He talks about the danger of Islam and what he sees as a failure of politicians to deal with the issue.
What are you going to do about Islam? The demographical replacement of our population due to birth rate. What are you going to do about that?
Says that he feels that, yes, he agrees with the customer that there's no solution to this without chaos, that we're in a race against time.
When the first European government attempt mass deportations, they will kick off. Chaos has to come then, yeah. We're in a race against time. All we can do is try and awaken more people with our speech, make sure people understand the danger Islam poses.
After seeing that video, I felt that there was a real public interest in trying to understand whether in these consultations he was offering practical tips, whether he was offering personalised advice, whether he was directly encouraging them to protest, whether he was failing to challenge things that they might be suggesting. So I had a chat with my editor and we felt that the only way really to get to the bottom of how these consultations worked was to request some videos of our own.
Just remind us who this man is. We call him Tommy Robinson. That's not actually his real name, and I always think that's quite important to point out.
Yeah, so his real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon, and I guess he's become known as perhaps the most prominent anti-Islam campaigner in Britain. He is 42. He was born in a working class neighbourhood in Luton. He ran a plumbing business as an adult, and in his early 20s, he joined the British National Party, which had been formed as a splinter group of the National Front. But he said he left quite soon afterwards because he didn't know the group held white supremacist views. He later went on to found the English Defence League in 2009, which was an anti-Muslim, anti-immigrant organisation, and became quite well known for street protest. He says he's often smeared as a racist or a Nazi, but that he doesn't actually care about skin colour and he has nothing against Muslims. Instead, he says he opposes Islam as an idea and that it's not racist to oppose what he says is a violent ideology. In the last few years, he's gained a lot of momentum online, so talking about Islam, immigration, the grooming gang scandal. He's got a really big platform on social media sites like X, and he's appeared on podcasts such as that of Jordan Peterson. He's been really criticised by anti-racist groups who say that obviously criticism of Islamist ideology and extremism is fair game, but what he's actually doing is very often inciting fear of and hatred against ordinary people. So in the past, he's been quoted as saying that he doesn't care if his rhetoric incites fear of Muslims. In 2011, he said that every single Muslim in the UK had got away with the 7/7 bombings in London.
As I've said, we are here today to tell you quite loud, quite clear, every single Muslim watching this video on YouTube. On 7/7, you got away with killing and maiming British citizens. You got away with it.
In 2016, he said he would send back every adult male Muslim that had come to the EU in the last year if he could. And more recently, he's claimed that Britain is facing a Muslim takeover of our country and referred to the religion as sick and backwards. So it's somebody who's got a really big platform at the moment. He has a lot of support among certain sections of the population, and research by groups that monitor radicalisation and far-right activity show that he's really influential in getting people out onto the streets. He's posted a lot about the protests in recent weeks and during the riots last year.
In terms of this platform that you found him on, what is it? Who is behind it? Where is it based? Yeah, bring us up to date, because we might be familiar with X. I'm not familiar with this thing.
Yeah, and I wasn't either until I started looking into it. So the platform is called Minnect, and it's based in Florida. It was founded by somebody called Patrick Bet-David, who's a fairly well-known figure, a commentator in the US on the political right. It works a little bit like OnlyFans or Cameo in that it lets fans connect with people in the public eye directly, but obviously rather than being like sexual content or happy birthday messages and greetings, it's pitched as a platform that lets people connect with experts. So it says on its website that it allows access to world-class advice and that you can turn any celebrity into your personal mentor in seconds. It also says you can get one-to-one coaching from people you admire the most. So the people that I could see on the platform besides Robinson were mainly people based in the US. So there was the founder of the alternative video platform Rumble, Candace Owens, who's a US political commentator, and Roger Stone, a former advisor to Donald Trump. Minnect very much seems to align itself with the values of free speech and anti-censorship. Its founder, Patrick Bet-David, has his own podcast where he's interviewed people, including Tommy Robinson.
So we're going to Bahamas to interview the controversial Tommy Robinson.
The conversations that they have are perhaps more candid or extreme than you might find on other platforms.
They're getting our young girls hooked on heroin and then they're prostituting them in paedophile gangs. The government know, the police know, religious leaders know. There's a conspiracy.
How is that possible?
They control the drugs, the violence in every town and city is controlled by the Muslim community in the UK now. They are the mafia. This will be viewed as the darkest stain on British history.
So I should add that there are some questions around the fact the app is operating in the UK in the first place. According to its website, Minnect is only officially accessible in the US and Canada, but I was able to download it in July and it remained available from UK app stores this week. All platforms operating in the UK are expected to comply with the new Online Safety Act, which requires them to address harmful or illegal content, and in some cases to conduct age checks, or they can face fines. But when I went through Minnect's terms and conditions, they suggested that oversight of consultations on the app are quite limited. So they say that Minnect is not responsible for harm arising from consultations and that it has not and cannot review all of the material posted, so cannot therefore be responsible.
What does it look like when you kind of encounter it for the first time? I'm trying to work out if it's like a Tinder for these sorts of messages where you can swipe through and take your pick of a person. Has everybody got their own profile? Describe it to us, show it to us.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not like Tinder in the sense that you don't swipe through the experts, but you can scroll through the homepage and see the featured experts that Minnect has chosen to promote. So currently there's a list of new featured experts, and at the top of it, Tommy Robinson is listed there. So he's got a blue tick next to his name, and his profile shows that he's so far conducted more than 300 consultations. He's got a 5-star review. It says he responds to messages in 2 days, and that his profile has been viewed more than 8,000 times.
Do we know how much Robinson is making from this, how much it costs, and how much he walks away with?
On Robinson's profile, there are 3 options. The first is that you can send a written message and you can get a written response back. The second is that you send a written message and you get a video answer back. So that's a pre-recorded message where he is speaking to you one-to-one. And the third is a video call. So a written message is $40. A video message is $50. And you can also pay for a live video call if you'd rather connect with him in real time. So that's $525 for 15 minutes. So we can see on his profile that he's conducted more than 300 consultations since the middle of June, meaning that he's probably generated at least $12,000 or about £9,000. Minnect says on its website that it takes a 20% cut of the earnings. There's a chance it could be a lot more. For example, one consultation could be a video call and that might earn him a lot more than a written message. But we reckon it's likely to be several £1,000s at least.
And we're recording this in the middle of August, so that's in the space of about 8 weeks that he's had that number of consultations, that amount of interest, and potentially quite a large amount of money as well in that time. You said before, Shanti, that you decided with your editor that the best way to find out what sort of stuff Tommy Robinson is producing in exchange for money in this sort of way was to go undercover, to get in there and to request some content yourself. What sort of questions did you ask? Can you give us some examples of what you put to him?
So we had to think really carefully about the questions that we asked him. We didn't want to ask anything that could be considered to be leading. We didn't feel that it would necessarily be fair to ask things that could be considered to be trying to trip him up. We asked 3 questions over the space of 2 days using 3 different names. We used false names because if I used my real name, he might not have replied. So we asked quite open questions about his thoughts on the protests that have been happening recently, on his advice for an aspiring activist. We asked him about his experiences as EDL leader and whether he had any thoughts on what direction activism should be going in. So we just wanted to get a sense of the types of things he was advising people on, whether he was giving practical tips, whether he was actively encouraging people to get involved, and how he was communicating with people.
And what's it like getting a reply from him? This, in some ways, I'm quite struck, Shanti, this is quite a personal thing, actually. It's quite a personal connection to immediately establish with somebody who, perhaps until this moment, for other followers and supporters of him who are not doing this in a journalistic capacity, they will automatically and immediately have built a connection with somebody that they have been quite distant from, but followed for quite some time, potentially.
Yeah, definitely. So it is quite different to just seeing like a generic post on social media. So he says like, hi, John, or hi, Sam, or whoever he's speaking to. And then he's holding up the phone to his face like he's speaking on FaceTime. It's very personal and one-to-one and friendly. So he uses quite a lot of terms of endearment, things like calling people bruv and mate. And it does feel very personal.
What sort of stuff does he say in reply, in response to you? What are some of the key themes, perhaps, that Robinson conveys?
So in one of the questions we asked him about the protests outside hotels housing asylum seekers, which started in Epping a few weeks ago, and we asked him what he thought about those. We also said that this person had a hotel housing asylum seekers in their neighbourhood, and what did they think were the best things to do on a local level?
Mate, I currently think it's brilliant what all the protests outside the hotels and the fact there's so many women and ordinary people.
And he also felt that it was brilliant that they appeared to be organic.
And I think it's brilliant that it's not coordinated by anyone like me, so they can't tarnish it. I think those sort of organic protests will be great, just to awaken the country and to give people a sense of confidence in standing up, which is what's currently happening. It's going to spread all summer.
So in another question, we asked him what he thought about Homeland and Patriotic Alternative, which are on the far right of the political spectrum in the UK.
Calum, don't go near either of them. Trust me, bro, okay? Don't be drawn in. They're never going to bring any change. They're fucking idiots.
He told the person, Calum, not to be drawn in. He's accused them of preying on the working class.
Now, what do they want? A white-only country. Totally, they want to deport every person that's not white. Yeah? I don't want to do that. I do not want to do that. And you know what? The vast majority of British people don't want to do that because they'll have someone that's not white that they love.
Islam was the problem, not what those parties, he says, believe, which is that all non-white people are the issue.
And many of my not white mates have integrated, assimilated, fucking hard-working, Royal Marines, love the country. Islam's the problem, bro. Mass immigration from Islamic nations.
He says he likes Sikhs, Hindus, black people, and they've all integrated pretty well. But yeah, Islam is his focus. He also plugged his new political party, Advance UK, which he joined recently.
Stay well clear, Calum. Join Advance UK, mate.
In another question, we asked him what his advice was from his experiences leading the English Defence League and any advice that he'd give to his younger self.
Sam, what I learned through the EDL was you are always open for infiltration. You wouldn't believe the level of infiltration we had. I learned it very hard. I learned that the security services have infiltrated the movement in order to split it, the north, the west, the north, the Midlands and the south, constant wars between it. We were always trying to hold it together. I was lucky that I had the respect of the people. Otherwise, it would have collapsed very early.
He also gave some, fairly nice advice, which was that it's a good idea to go to the gym, not to drink.
If I give any young advice for a young man in their 20s, get in the gym every fucking morning, bruv. Get in the gym every day. That will change your life. Get in the gym. Stop drinking. Stop the alcohol.
We also asked him a question about practical tips for getting the most impact online. Obviously, he's got a really big following on X and he does get a lot of engagement on some of his posts. And in response, he said that in his experience, posting blunt content was most likely to get maximum impact.
Sam, what always goes down the best for me is just blunt. Say how it is. You say something most people are thinking but are too worried to say it.
He also advised this man who was sort of pitched as an aspiring activist to get practical and to take direct actions.
Look up wherever you live, Start Googling refugee rape. Start looking at statistics. Look, maybe investigate the mosques, all these sorts of things, bruv. Look at the funding and start doing videos talking about it. But it's risky. It's risky if you've got a career, it's risky if you've got a job, and it's risky for safety. So don't go into it blind.
In terms of the people who are contacting him, who are asking for videos, who are asking for messages, whatever, can you see who those people are? Is there a sort of community feel to this, or is it anonymous?
I think there's definitely the option to ask questions anonymously, but what we can see is who has left reviews, and in some cases they appear to be using their real names. So we can tell from the reviews that in many cases they are people based in the UK. They're referring to UK-specific things like attending a rally that Robinson's organising next month. When people have left their real names, we can get a sense of who some of them are from researching them separately. So we went through the public reviews and we looked at whether there was any public record of their activity, whether they were known associates of Robinson. So some of those paying for his services are fans who are really excited to be speaking to him one-to-one. The reviews refer to conversations about family, fitness, holidays, and thank him for being an amazing support and a working-class hero. But our analysis also suggested that his clients include people whose names tallied with those who had posted publicly on social media things that were quite extreme. One person who's left multiple reviews says on his public social media accounts things about paedophile and terrorist Islamists. He's called for people to smash and overthrow the government, and also refers to Islamic rats, and a post last year saying that the army should shoot to kill a group of migrants. There are other cases where we can see that people linked to those reviews have posted things about people from Pakistan, for example, calling them barbarians. There doesn't seem to be a clear pattern, but certainly a range of people, some who are genuine fans, others who seem to be wanting kind of practical advice on anti-Islam activism.
Shanti, we've been hearing about your investigation into Tommy Robinson selling personal messages and coaching around kind of anti-Islam activism to his supporters. And I think it's good just to understand how that relates, if at all, to some of the anti-migrant protests and activities that we are experiencing in the UK even now. Can you talk us through some of these recent protests and how Robinson rhetoric might be part of the story there?
So all of this is happening in a context where tensions in Britain over immigration and the asylum system are growing. So it's dominating the political debate, but there have also been protests out on the streets. Last summer, there were riots across the country, which began in Southport after the murder of 3 girls and false claims that the killer was Muslim, which he isn't. The protests spread across the country and there were incidents of violence. So there were targeted attacks on mosques and migrants and attempts by rioters to burn down an asylum seeker hotel.
They're in there.
Go in there!
During those protests, Robinson played a role in posting about what was going on. He also posted things about Islam, calling it sick and backwards. And research by groups that monitor this type of activity has suggested that his posts often attracted violent replies, rhetoric in the comment section, and played a role in encouraging people out onto the streets. This year, we're seeing a similar thing. So far, there have been protests outside of hotels housing asylum seekers, which began in Epping in July after the alleged sexual assault of a girl by an asylum seeker. And there are concerns that those protests, like the riots last summer, could turn violent.
What do anti-extremism experts who you've been speaking to, what do they say about all of this?
So I spoke to a researcher at the Centre for Countering Digital Hate and also to an analyst at the Institute for Strategic Dialogue, who have both got expertise in far-right activity. And they're really concerned about the consultations that Robinson's holding and also about the way they work and the fact that the content of them is private, that even though it's on a public platform, it's really difficult to know what's actually being discussed. So they say there are questions around due diligence. Is Robinson or is the platform conducting any checks to make sure that those who are asking questions don't have a history of posting extreme content that could suggest they might potentially be vulnerable to influence or radicalisation? Research by the Centre for Countering Digital Hate has found a link in the past between Tommy Robinson's public social media posts and extreme rhetoric on immigration and Islam. They conducted a piece of work looking at influences on anti-migrant and anti-Muslim issues on social media, including Robinson, and they found that extreme comments were common in the replies. So on his post on X, for example, they included comments that were quite extreme, like kill them all, execute these animals, the only good Muslim is an unalived one, and saying that they should be Hitlered. Obviously, there's nothing to suggest that Robinson's aware that those who are asking him the questions have those types of views. You know, we don't know exactly who's asking them, but what the experts I've spoken to say is that there's a real potential risk here that personalised messages to people who might already be holding quite extreme views could open up the possibility of radicalisation. One of the experts I spoke to said that you can have individuals who are already feeling radicalised who might feel that this gives them extra impetus. And he said he felt that those one-to-one conversations could potentially be more powerful than seeing something just on social media, a little bit like influencers and the personal connection that they can create. And Calum Hood, who's the head of research at the Centre for Countering Digital Hate, said the provision of this personalised advice to unvetted followers was deeply alarming. He said there were urgent questions around what due diligence is being done, not just on Robinson, but on those asking the questions.
What about the platform? What did they say about giving a space to someone known for this style of campaigning that is prompting these sorts of concerns from those sorts of groups?
I got in touch with them about the findings of our investigation, and in a statement to us, the platform said it complied with all relevant laws in jurisdictions where it operates, and that it strictly prohibits any content that contains threats, incites violence, or promotes illegal activity. It said experts on Minnect were expected to comply with its rules, and that when concerns were reported to it, it investigated them thoroughly, and that breaches could result in removal or suspension. It also said its policy on letting people use fake names was in line with other platforms. While its website says it's only available in the US and Canada, a spokesperson said it didn't restrict access by geography and that the app was legally available in all countries where app marketplaces choose to distribute it. It said it didn't endorse the personal views of its experts, but aimed to enable access to a wide range of voices, provided they comply with its terms. Google told us that where apps are available is down to developers. We also contacted Apple, but we didn't hear back.
What does Tommy Robinson say about what you've discovered?
So we contacted Robinson and put to him a series of questions about his use of Minnect. He didn't respond to us, but he did post on social media after the article went out, saying he wouldn't be cancelled. I should also say he's previously said he's not racist or far-right. He says he supports free speech and doesn't condone violence.
One of the things I want to ask you, Shanti, is how this all fits into a wider context, I think, of the kind of intensification of immigration rhetoric from politicians generally and on issues related to immigration. That actually what we might see on public-facing platforms like X is only actually a part of the story. You're bringing us another part of this, which is lesser known, not as visible, but could be fueling this intensification as well.
Yeah, so I think it's a really interesting development. All of this is happening at a time when immigration is obviously at the top of the political agenda. So recent figures show that more than 27,000 migrants have crossed the English Channel since the start of the year. There have been protests at hotels housing asylum seekers, which have attracted attention from the far right and support from the far right, but have also been attended by local people who are genuinely concerned about safety or taxpayer spending. A poll earlier this year found that 2 in 3 people believe the total number of people entering the UK is too high. So there are loads of genuine concerns and points of debate in this area. I think what's really interesting about this and about the one-to-one consultancy that Tommy Robinson's providing is how it moves some of that public debate into a really private space. While we don't know the content of most of the consultancy sessions, I think that our investigation has shown that there are cases where he is providing really practical, strategic advice and encouragement to people who might already hold extreme views on using violence to tackle immigration or have used racial slurs. And again, there's nothing to suggest that Tommy Robinson knows the background of those people who are asking the questions or that he is encouraging violence. But the experts that I spoke to said there were real concerns about the potential for radicalisation from having a one-to-one conversation with somebody and how powerful that can be versus just seeing something on TV or something on social media. And it also comes at a time when there are real concerns about radicalisation and the far right. So we looked at data from the Home Office on referrals to Prevent, which is the government's programme to support people who are at risk of becoming involved with terrorism through radicalisation. And it showed that referrals for people holding extreme right views were higher for the 4th year running than those for people with extreme Islamist views. So it's happening at a time when there's potential for real world harm. And I think when we don't know and when we can't see what's being said in those consultations, there are real potential questions about the impact it's having.
Shanti Das is an investigations reporter at The Times. You can read more on her investigation at thetimes.com so long as you've got a subscription. The producer was Shabnam Grewal. The executive producer was Edward Drummond. And sound design and theme composition was by Mau Losetto. If you can, please leave us a review. It'll help others to find us. See you soon.